Here's the thing about lies. They're rarely perfect. No matter how carefully she chooses her words, her body will always give her away. You've seen it. A sudden swallow, a shaky voice, or restless hands she can't keep still. Those little glitches are not accidents. They're the nervous system spilling secrets the mouth wants to hide. And yet most men look right past it, desperate to believe what they're being told. That desperation comes at a price: time, dignity, and power. But you don't have to pay it. I'm about to show you 10 signs that cut straight through the mask. Watch closely, because the moment you learn these cues, you'll never fall victim to her lies again. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've seen men lose years of their lives ignoring signals that were right in front of them. That's why I'm passionate about teaching you to spot these signs before it's too late. Hit subscribe now, drop a like, and share in the comments if you've ever noticed something subtle that didn't add up. Your story might resonate with another man watching right now. And in just a moment, I'll break down the very first sign, one you've probably overlooked countless times. Number 1. Swallowing. When a person lies, their body often betrays them before their words do. One of the most common giveaways is an unconscious tightening of the throat. Stress activates the body's fight or flight response, and when that happens, muscles around the esophagus constrict. This makes swallowing harder, so you may notice her taking more gulps than usual, even if she doesn't have a glass of water nearby. It's not about thirst. It's about tension she can't hide. Picture this. You ask her about a message you saw pop up on her phone. The room is quiet. Her eyes dart for just a moment, and then, there it is, a dry swallow. Then another. She finally speaks, but the pause has already spoken louder than her words. These little physiological cues are rarely random. They're the body's desperate attempt to manage pressure when the mind is scrambling for a believable answer. Now, does that mean every swallow equals a lie? No. Sometimes people are nervous simply because of the confrontation itself. But here's the difference. If you see this reaction paired with other signs from this list, the chances increase that something is being concealed. Your job as a man isn't to call her out instantly. That's how you lose control of the conversation and hand her the emotional upper ground. Instead, stay silent. Watch. Let the discomfort play out. The more space you give, the more her body will reveal. Power doesn't come from accusing. It comes from observing, remembering, and letting the truth expose itself without you saying a word. Number 2. Licking the lips. When someone is under stress, the body reacts in subtle but telling ways. One of those is reduced saliva production. Her mouth dries out, and instinctively she moistens her lips or even bites them. To an untrained eye, it might look seductive. To a man who understands psychology, it's often the nervous system exposing pressure. Imagine this. You ask her about where she was last night. Instead of answering right away, she runs her tongue across her lips, maybe twice. She tries to continue talking, but her jaw tightens, her lips press together unnaturally. That dryness in her mouth isn't just physical, it's emotional tension manifesting in her body. Now here's the trap most men fall into. They confuse lip licking with attraction. She might even rely on that confusion. Because if you're distracted by what looks like flirtation, you won't notice the discomfort behind it. That's how lies slip past you, not through what she says, but through what you misinterpret. Does it always mean she's lying? No. Stress, fatigue, even an uncomfortable conversation can cause dry mouth. But when you see this alongside other signs, like a sudden swallow, a shift in tone, or restless hands, don't ignore it. Your move is simple. Don't react. Don't accuse. And definitely don't let your desire cloud your judgment. Pay attention to the pattern. Watch how often it happens and under what kind of questions. That's where the truth is hiding, in the consistency of her unconscious tells. Number 3. Answering with questions. When someone doesn't want to face the truth, one of the oldest tricks in the book is deflection. Instead of answering you directly, she throws the ball back in your court with another question. Psychologically, this is a stalling tactic. It gives her precious seconds to craft a believable story while making you feel like you're the one being unreasonable. You've probably heard it before. You ask, "Where were you last night?" And she fires back, "Why don't you trust me?" That's not an answer. That's a shield. The purpose isn't to explain. It's to flip the script, to put you on defense. If you bite, the conversation shifts. Suddenly, you're the one explaining yourself, defending your suspicion, while her lie quietly escapes the spotlight. This is more than a nervous tic. It's emotional manipulation. The goal is to make you doubt your instincts and back off from pressing further. Many men fall for this because they fear being labeled insecure or controlling. But that fear is exactly what allows deception to thrive. Here's your counter move. Hold the frame. Don't follow her question. Don't argue about whether you trust her or not. Instead, calmly repeat your original question. Do it without anger, without raising your voice. Just steady and direct. When you refuse to get sidetracked, she loses the advantage. Remember, truth doesn't need to hide behind another question. Only lies do. And if she consistently dodges with deflection, that's a clear sign she's not giving you the full picture. Number 4, selective memory. Forgetting is human. We all lose track of small details from time to time. But when memory suddenly becomes foggy only around specific questions, that's not ordinary forgetfulness. That's strategy. Psychologists call this avoidance. Instead of telling a direct lie, she creates a gap in her story, a blank space where the truth should be. Imagine this scenario. You ask, "Who were you with after work?" She answers, "I don't really remember." Yet moments later, she recalls what she ate, what music was playing, even what shoes she wore. Conveniently, the only thing she can't remember is the detail that actually matters. That imbalance is the red flag. This tactic works because men often accept "I forgot" as harmless. It sounds less aggressive than a flat denial, and it buys her safety without committing to a lie. But make no mistake, when selective memory appears in the middle of an otherwise clear story, it's rarely accidental. Here's your role. Don't rush to argue, and don't fill in the blanks for her. Just listen. Take note of what she says, and, more importantly, what she avoids saying. Later, bring the same question back in a different way. If her answers don't line up, the cracks will widen on their own. The key is patience. Liars rely on your frustration, hoping you'll drop the subject. Don't. Stay calm, remember the details, and let her contradictions reveal themselves. Real memory doesn't collapse only where the pressure lies. That's where deception lives. Number 5, skin tone changes. The human body is a terrible liar. When stress hits, it shows itself in places you can't control. One of the most revealing signs is a sudden shift in skin tone. Under pressure, adrenaline floods the bloodstream. Blood vessels either expand or constrict, and the result is visible. A face that goes pale in seconds, or flushes red out of nowhere. Picture this. You're having a normal conversation, casual and light. But the moment you touch a sensitive subject, where she was, who she was with, her complexion betrays her. Maybe her cheeks flare with color, or maybe all the warmth drains out and her face turns ghostly. She keeps talking, trying to act natural, but her body has already broadcasted the message, something isn't right. Most men ignore this. They think, maybe she's just embarrassed. And yes, embarrassment can cause the same reaction. But context matters. If the change happens instantly and only when the tough question lands, it's rarely coincidence. It's the body sounding the alarm. Here's your move. Don't call it out. The moment you point and say, "Why are you blushing?" you give her a chance to cover it up, to laugh it off. Instead, file it away. Let her continue speaking while you observe carefully. Often, that skin reaction is the purest truth you'll get in the entire conversation. The lesson here is simple. Words can be rehearsed, stories can be polished, but the body never rehearses its panic. Pay attention to the sudden change in her face. It's her nervous system confessing what her mouth won't. Number 6. Voice changes. The voice is one of the hardest things to control under pressure. When someone lies, stress interferes with breathing and vocal cords. You'll hear shifts in pitch, sudden cracks, or a pace that feels rushed and uneven. These aren't stylistic choices. They're stress signals. Imagine you ask her a simple but direct question. "Why didn't you answer my call last night?" She begins to reply, but her voice lifts an octave higher than normal, or it trembles just slightly. Maybe she talks faster, as if racing ahead of her own thoughts. Or maybe she stalls, dragging out syllables because her brain is working overtime to invent details. Whatever the form, the change in rhythm is the giveaway. Here's the problem. Many men let emotion drown out perception. They get angry at the words and miss the music underneath. But the voice reveals more than the sentence. A nervous system under stress struggles to maintain its usual tone. Even seasoned liars can't fully mask the sound of tension. Your move is patience. Instead of reacting to the story, pay attention to how it's told. Is her breathing shallow? Does her pace shift mid-sentence? Those subtle cues tell you more than the content. If her voice consistently falters only when certain topics are raised, that's not coincidence, that's exposure. Remember this rule. Words can deceive, but tone always betrays. Listen carefully, not just to what she says, but to how her body forces it out. That's where the truth leaks through. Number 7. Hiding the hands. Hands are more honest than words. When the mind is busy constructing a lie, the body often reveals the tension through the hands. That's why many people, especially under stress, instinctively try to hide them. They shove them into pockets, cross their arms tightly, or keep their palms pressed flat against a surface. It's not comfort, it's concealment. Picture this. You're sitting across the table, asking her about something that doesn't add up. Instead of gesturing naturally like she usually does, her hands vanish beneath the table, or she clasps them tightly together in her lap. She may even tuck them under her arms, as if she's bracing against exposure. These are unconscious moves. She's not planning them. They're her nervous system's attempt to keep from leaking the truth through involuntary gestures. Most men overlook this because they're too focused on her words or her face. But remember, liars fear their hands. Hands fidget, twitch, or reveal emotion without permission. That's why hiding them becomes a defensive reflex. Your move. Observe without reacting. Don't demand she show her hands or call out the behavior. That only makes her double down. Instead, note the shift. If she usually talks with open palms and now suddenly tucks them away, that change is telling. Combine that observation with other cues, and the pattern becomes undeniable. The lesson is simple. Eyes may lie, words may mislead, but hands always tell the truth. And when those hands disappear, you should be asking yourself, what exactly is she trying to keep out of sight? Number 8. Pupil dilation. The eyes may be called the window to the soul, but in truth, they're windows to the nervous system. When stress strikes, your body releases adrenaline. That surge affects the pupils, causing them to dilate. Unlike words or gestures, this reaction can't be faked or rehearsed. It happens instantly and unconsciously, exposing what the mind is trying to hide. Picture this moment. You ask her about something she clearly doesn't want to discuss, maybe an unexplained gap in her schedule. As soon as the question lands, her pupils widen. The change is subtle, but if you're paying attention, it's impossible to miss. She may look away quickly or blink faster, trying to conceal the signal, but the dilation already betrayed her. This is where most men fail. They focus on what she says instead of how her body reacts. They hear the excuses, but they miss the eyes screaming with tension. A skilled liar may maintain eye contact, but even then, her pupils tell the story. The nervous system doesn't take orders from her narrative. Your move. Observe quietly. Don't announce what you see, because then she'll adapt. She'll look away more. She'll dim the lights. She'll avoid eye contact altogether. Instead, store that detail. Notice when the dilation occurs, and under what kind of question. Patterns speak louder than isolated moments. The truth here is simple. The pupils can't lie. When they flare wider at the exact moment pressure is applied, you've just witnessed the body expose what the words desperately tried to conceal. Number 9. Eye movement. The eyes carry guilt long before the lips confess it. When a person lies, maintaining steady eye contact becomes a battle. Some dart their gaze from side to side. Others blink excessively or lower their head entirely to avoid the weight of your stare. These movements are not random. They are micro-escapes, desperate attempts to flee the tension without leaving the room. Picture this. You ask her directly, "Were you with him?" For a split second, she locks eyes with you. Then suddenly, her gaze shifts left, right, anywhere but straight ahead. She blinks rapidly, as if the air itself stings her eyes, or she drops her head, forcing you to look at her crown instead of her pupils. She keeps talking, but her silence is in the movement. Most men misinterpret this. They think, maybe she's shy, or she just doesn't like confrontation. But context matters. If she only avoids eye contact during lighthearted talk, that's one thing. If her gaze breaks only when pressure is applied, that's another. Patterns define intent. Your move, don't chase her eyes, don't demand she look at you. That only gives her more power to act. Instead, observe the shift. Compare how she behaves when she's relaxed versus when she's cornered by a tough question. The difference tells you everything. Remember, the truth doesn't flinch, lies do. And when her eyes scatter under your questions, it isn't just nerves, it's the body trying to run from the very answer she refuses to say. Number 10. Nervous fidgeting. Before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about intimacy, it's about nervous energy escaping through restless movements. When someone lies, the stress has to go somewhere, and often it leaks through the hands. She may twist a ring, fiddle with her phone, tug at her sleeves, or run her fingers through her hair over and over. Sometimes she rubs her own arms, almost as if she's comforting herself. These aren't just quirks. They're coping mechanisms. Picture the scene. You ask her about an inconsistency in her story. She insists she's telling the truth, but her hands won't stay still. She spins her bracelet, taps her nails, or keeps brushing her hair behind her ear. The words are confident, but her body is restless. That contradiction is the signal. Most men dismiss these gestures as feminine habits. They assume she's just being playful or distracted. But when the timing lines up, when the fidgeting starts exactly as the tough question lands, you need to pay attention. The body is offloading tension that the voice is pretending doesn't exist. Your move is observation, not accusation. Don't grab her hands or call her out. Just notice. The more she fidgets when pressed, the clearer the picture becomes. Combined with other signs, like shifting voice or darting eyes, this pattern reveals far more than her words ever will. The truth is simple. Calm hands belong to calm minds. Restless hands belong to someone fighting a story they don't fully believe themselves. And when her hands won't stop moving, it's rarely just coincidence. Here's the truth. These 10 signs are not here to turn you into a detective with a magnifying glass. They're here to give you awareness, to hand you back the power that so many men surrender in silence. A single sign on its own doesn't prove deception. People blush, fidget, or forget details for countless reasons. But when patterns appear, when 3, 4, 5 of these signals start lining up, you'd be foolish to ignore them. Remember, deception thrives not because she is clever, but because you are blind. Most men miss what's right in front of them because they're too focused on words or too afraid of confrontation. They want to believe so badly that they let their instincts rot. Don't make that mistake. Awareness doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prepared. But let me be clear. This isn't about policing her every move. It's about strengthening yours. The real lesson isn't just spotting lies. It's learning how to stay calm when you sense them. A man who explodes in anger hands over his control. A man who observes, remembers, and connects the dots keeps the upper ground. That's the man who cannot be manipulated. So here's my challenge to you. Stop ignoring the red flags. Start trusting what your eyes, ears, and instincts have been telling you all along. Don't wait until the truth destroys you. Step into the role of a man who sees clearly, who stays steady, and who refuses to let his emotions be used against him. If this message opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, share this with a man who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. Which of these 10 signs have you seen before but overlooked? Because the truth belongs only to those who are willing to face it. And today, you've taken one step closer to being that man. Just part of dating. But the truth is, the cost of ignoring the warning signs isn't just financial. You lose your time, your pride, and your sense of worth. Don't let that be you. Stick with me, because I'm going to expose the top 5 signs she's using you, and I'll show you exactly what to do when you see them. This video could be the start of a turning point for you, the moment you decide you'll never again allow yourself to be used. So before we continue, hit subscribe, tap like, and write a simple commitment in the comments. I refuse to be used. That's your first step toward reclaiming your power. And right after this, we'll begin with the first sign. The one that instantly exposes when you've stopped being her partner and started being her wallet. Number 1, she makes you pay for everything. Let's be honest, if you find yourself constantly reaching for your wallet every time you see her, something is off. I'm not talking about being generous or treating a woman you care about. I'm talking about a pattern where you have become the default provider for every single outing, every single coffee, every single meal, every single ride. If you feel like a walking ATM machine instead of a man in a relationship, you are already in dangerous territory. Here's the brutal truth. When a woman truly respects you and genuinely values being with you, she will never try to drain you financially. In fact, she will often do the opposite. She'll say, "Hey, that's too expensive. Let's do something simpler." Or she'll offer to chip in because she doesn't want you carrying the entire weight. Why? Because love is about partnership, not consumption. Respect is about balance, not exploitation. Now contrast that with a woman who never even offers to pay. She doesn't hesitate to order the most expensive item on the menu, the finest wine, or the highest priced dessert, because she knows you'll foot the bill. That's not just thoughtlessness. That's entitlement. And entitlement is one of the clearest red flags you can ever encounter. Some men ignore this sign because they've been conditioned to believe that being a gentleman means paying for everything without question. They tell themselves it's just how dating works. But what they don't realize is that genuine women who are sincerely interested, are more concerned about how you're doing than what they can get from you. They don't want you to go broke trying to impress them. They don't want you to carry a financial burden that makes you stressed or resentful. The psychology behind this is simple. When a woman insists you pay for everything, she is either testing your boundaries or using you outright. If she is testing, she wants to see whether you are the type of man who stands up for himself or the type who silently accepts being drained. If she is using you, she already knows the answer. You're too smitten, too desperate, or too blind to recognize what's happening. Either way, the result is the same. You are losing money, losing control, and slowly losing your self-respect. So how do you handle this? You run your own test. Next time, suggest she pays for something small. Watch her reaction carefully. If she gladly contributes, if she even insists on sharing the cost, you have a woman who values fairness. But if she becomes irritated, defensive, or even offended, you now know the truth. She never saw you as a partner. She saw you as a sponsor. I've seen men justify this behavior saying, "It's not a big deal. I can afford it." But the issue isn't the money. It's the mindset. The moment you normalize being treated like a bottomless wallet, you set the tone for the entire relationship. And relationships built on one-sided giving always collapse. Not because of a lack of money, but because of the lack of respect that follows. A healthy woman who's genuinely interested in you will protect your resources. She'll encourage moderation. She'll value experiences with you more than price tags. The wrong woman will see you as an opportunity to upgrade her lifestyle without lifting a finger. Here's the line you need to remember. A woman who truly values you will try to protect your money, not drain it. Number 2. She already told you she just wants to be friends. This one is going to sting, but it's better you hear it now than 5 years from now when you've wasted your time, energy, and resources. When a woman looks you in the eye and says, "I just see you as a friend," she has drawn a line in the sand. She's telling you that no matter how much money you spend, no matter how many favors you do, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to cross into her romantic world. That door is locked, and yet too many men still stand outside knocking with their wallets. Why do men do this? Because deep down, they're hoping she'll change her mind. They convince themselves that persistence will win her over, that one day she'll wake up and realize he was the one all along. Hollywood sells this fantasy. Reality destroys it. When a woman places you in the friend category, it's usually permanent. Now, some women are honest. They say, "I don't want anything more than friendship." That statement, in itself, isn't manipulation. The manipulation begins when you refuse to accept her boundary but keep pouring in effort. At that point, you're not a victim of her dishonesty. You're a victim of your own denial. She may accept the gifts, the dinners, the rides, the favors, but only because you keep offering. Why wouldn't she? You've volunteered to be her unpaid assistant. Think about the psychology here. She already told you what she wants, nothing beyond friendship. But instead of listening, you're writing your own script where she'll magically change her mind. You're ignoring her words and chasing your fantasy. And while you chase, she benefits. She gets the attention, the validation, the resources, all without having to invest anything in return. That's not a relationship. That's a one-man show, and you're the only actor on stage. Here's the harsh part. If you continue giving after she's drawn the line, you are training her to use you. She might not have started with that intention, but by refusing to respect her words, you put yourself in a position where she can only take. And the more you give, the less she respects you. So how do you handle this? Believe her. The moment she says she only wants friendship, take her at her word. Stop trying to change her mind. If you can genuinely handle being just friends, then fine, keep the friendship, but strip away all the extras. No more romantic dinners, no more expensive gifts, no more bending over backward to impress her. If she wants your company, she can meet you halfway. But if your heart is in it, and you know you can't handle being just friends, then walk away. Protect your time, your energy, and your emotional health. It's better to lose one woman than to lose yourself trying to win someone who never wanted you in the first place. Men waste years in this trap, stuck in cycles of wishful thinking when the truth was spoken from the start. Stop bargaining with words that were already clear. She doesn't want you that way, and no amount of persistence, spending, or patience is going to rewrite her decision. Here's the line you need to remember. If she says you're just a friend, believe her. Don't pay for the privilege of being ignored. Number 3. She avoids serious conversations. You can learn a lot about how someone truly feels about you by paying attention to the depth of your conversations. When a woman is genuinely interested in you, she will want to know you, not just what you do for her, but who you are. She'll be curious about your past, your values, your ambitions, and your vision for the future. She'll ask questions because she's invested in the possibility of building something real. Now let's flip that around. If every conversation feels shallow, if she never asks about your family, your dreams, or your struggles, that is not an accident. That is a choice. It means she is intentionally keeping things on the surface level because she doesn't want to connect emotionally. She isn't trying to build intimacy. She's simply passing time, enjoying the perks, and leaving you out of her inner world. Think about the last few times you spoke with her. Did she steer the conversation toward herself? Did she keep things light and trivial while dodging anything meaningful? Did she change the subject every time you tried to talk about something real? That's a red flag. A woman who avoids serious conversations isn't just shy or distracted. She's uninterested in creating a bond. And here's the painful truth. If she doesn't let you in, it's because she doesn't want you in. People naturally share details with those they care about. If she opens up about her fears, her family, or her aspirations, it shows she's placing trust in you. If she avoids those conversations altogether, she's telling you without words, "You're not important enough to know me deeply." Some men misinterpret this avoidance. They think she's just private, or that with enough time she'll start opening up. Sometimes that's true, but usually when a woman is interested, she gives signals of openness from the beginning. It doesn't take years for her to ask how your day really went, or to share something vulnerable about herself. If weeks or months pass and all you talk about is food, places to go, or random small talk, you're not moving forward. You're standing still. So what should you do? Test her willingness to engage. Bring up something personal and meaningful. Share a piece of yourself. Maybe a challenge you're facing, or a future goal. Watch how she reacts. If she listens, asks follow-up questions, and reciprocates with her own experiences, that's healthy. But if she dismisses, deflects, or simply shows no interest, you have your answer. She doesn't want depth with you because she doesn't see you as someone worth building with. And here's where many men get stuck. They think that by providing more, spending more, or trying harder, she'll eventually care enough to open up. But emotional connection cannot be bought. It cannot be forced. If she isn't engaging on a deeper level now, she likely never will. Ask yourself this. Do you want to spend your life with someone who only wants your time, your money, or your company for entertainment, while refusing to share anything real about herself? Or do you want a partner who sees you, hears you, and values you enough to connect beyond the surface? The answer should be clear. Don't settle for shallow. Don't let yourself become a distraction in someone else's boredom. Here's the line you need to remember. If all she wants is the free meal, not your mind, you're not dating, you're catering. Number 4, she's only available when it benefits her. Pay close attention to her availability. Does she suddenly become free the moment she wants dinner, a ride, or a night out, but disappear when you ask for her time? If she's only showing up when it serves her needs, then she's not building a relationship with you. She's managing a convenience. And you, unfortunately, are the convenience. This is one of the most obvious, but also one of the most ignored signs. Men see it happening, but they rationalize it. They think, she's just busy, or she has a lot going on. But notice the pattern. She's never too busy when she needs something from you. Somehow, her schedule magically clears up when she's hungry, bored, or looking for someone to sponsor an evening out. Think about it. You call her when you're free. She says no, she's busy, she's tired, she has other plans. But 2 days later, she's the one calling you, suddenly available, and it just so happens she's craving sushi or wants to check out a new club. She doesn't care what your schedule looks like. She doesn't care if you're tired or busy. She cares only that you're available when she decides you should be. That's not affection. That's control. And let's not ignore one of the biggest red flags. She shows up with friends you never invited. Imagine planning a date for 2, only for her to arrive with 3 friends in tow, expecting you to foot the entire bill. That's not a date. That's a setup. A woman who respects you would never put you in that position. But a woman who only sees you as a meal ticket? She won't even think twice. Here's the psychology behind it. People reveal their priorities through their consistency. If she consistently prioritizes you only when it benefits her, she is showing you that your value in her eyes is transactional. You are not a partner. You are an option, a resource, a utility, and as long as you allow it, she will continue treating you that way. So how do you test this? Say no. The next time she asks you out, tell her you can't make it. Watch how she reacts. If she gets upset, vanishes, or stops reaching out altogether, then you weren't important to her. You were just useful. But if she still makes time for you, even when she can't get what she wants, then maybe she values more than just the benefits. Too many men are afraid to say no because they think it will cost them the relationship. But if saying no destroys what you had, then you never had a relationship in the first place. You had a contract where you were the provider and she was the consumer. That's not love. That's a transaction disguised as romance. Ask yourself, do you want to be a man she respects and makes time for? Or do you want to be the placeholder she uses when it's convenient? If you keep allowing yourself to be a backup plan, don't be surprised when she treats you like one. Here's the line you need to remember. If her calendar only opens when she's hungry, you're not her man. You're her meal ticket. Number 5. She invests no emotions in you. One of the clearest ways to measure whether a woman is genuinely interested in you is by looking at her emotional investment. Not her words, not her excuses, her actions. Does she reach out when you don't? Does she remember the details you share, the things that matter to you? Does she celebrate your wins, support you when you're down, and make an effort to connect beyond the surface? If the answer is no, then you need to stop lying to yourself. She isn't emotionally invested in you. Picture this. You disappear for a few days, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely busy or want to test the waters. Does she notice? Does she call? Does she check in? If the silence is met with more silence, then she doesn't care. You are not a priority. You are not on her mind. You are simply a convenient option she taps into when she's bored or wants something. Think about birthdays, anniversaries, or even small milestones. With technology today, remembering important dates takes seconds. If she can post selfies and scroll through feeds but can't be bothered to remember your birthday, that's not forgetfulness. That's disinterest. A woman who cares will make the effort, even in small ways, to show you she values you. A woman who doesn't care won't even pretend. Here's the psychology at play. Emotional investment is costly. It requires time, energy, and vulnerability. When someone avoids making that investment, it's because they don't see the relationship as valuable enough to warrant it. They may still accept your company, your money, your attention, but they'll never give back what really matters. Without emotional reciprocity, What you have isn't a relationship. It's an arrangement. And let's be clear, not every woman who is emotionally distant is intentionally using you. Sometimes she's just not interested but doesn't want to say it outright. That's why you must learn to distinguish between indifference and genuine care. If you find yourself doing all the work, sending all the messages, planning all the meetups, and keeping the connection alive by yourself, you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. And she's just the audience. So what should you do? Step back and observe. Stop being the one to always initiate. Give space and see what happens. If she reaches out, if she shows she cares, then maybe she was simply reserved at first. But if the silence remains, if the effort is still one-sided, then you have your answer. She's not emotionally invested. And without emotional investment, there is no foundation for anything real. Here's the truth most men avoid. You cannot make someone care. You cannot by interest, force affection, or earn love through persistence alone. If she's not giving you emotional energy, you're not in her heart. You're just in her spare time. Ask yourself honestly, do you want to build a life with someone who sees you as nothing more than a distraction? Or do you want to be with someone who meets you halfway, who shows you through her words and actions that you matter? Here's the line you need to remember. No emotional investment means no real connection. Don't mistake her boredom for love. Now you've seen the 5 signs. If 1 or 2 show up in your relationship, it's time to pause and pay attention. If 3 or more are present, there's no question about it. You're not in a relationship, you're in an arrangement where you're being drained. And the longer you ignore these truths, the deeper you sink into a role you were never meant to play. Men often tell themselves that things will change, that if they just keep giving, eventually she'll see their value. But relationships don't work that way. Respect isn't earned through endless sacrifice. Love isn't built by ignoring red flags. Every time you excuse her lack of effort, every time you allow yourself to be used, you are giving away your power. And once that power is gone, so is your ability to lead, to set boundaries, and to protect your own worth. It's time to flip the script. Instead of being the man who tolerates crumbs, become the man who demands respect. Instead of being an option that she turns to when it's convenient, become the man who knows his own value and refuses to settle for less. Because the truth is, you teach people how to treat you. If you allow yourself to be used, you will be used. If you set clear standards and walk away from anyone who doesn't meet them, you will attract women who actually want to build with you, not just take from you. So here's my challenge to you. Stop justifying, stop hoping, and stop tolerating. Start paying attention to the patterns, start enforcing your boundaries, and start making choices that protect your time, your money, and your emotions. If this message hit home, share it with another man who needs to hear it. Drop your experience in the comments, because your story might save someone else from making the same mistakes. And if you found value here, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the truths that can protect your future. Remember this. Stop being an option in someone else's game. Start being the man who chooses, not the man who's being used. Have you ever felt something was off with her, but the moment you brought it up, she flipped it back on you? That's not reassurance. That's strategy. When a woman is cheating with someone you know, she doesn't confess. She covers it up with words designed to silence your instincts. And here's the danger. If you miss these signals, you're not just losing her, you're being replaced by someone you trusted. That's betrayal stacked on betrayal. But you don't have to walk blind into it. Because women who cross that line all use the same set of phrases, like a script. Today, I'll reveal the 10 things she'll say that prove she's cheating with someone close to you. Before we dive in, let's make this interactive. If you're serious about spotting hidden manipulation, subscribe now, hit that like button, and answer me in the comments with a simple yes or no. Have you ever trusted your instincts but got told you were overreacting? Keep watching, because the first phrase I'm about to expose is the most common one women use to shut down your suspicions, and most men never realize what's happening. Number 1. You're being paranoid. When a woman looks you in the eye and throws this line at you, don't dismiss it as a casual remark. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book. She is not reassuring you. She is not easing your mind. She is planting doubt, making you question your own instincts. That's gaslighting, plain and simple. Think about it. You notice subtle changes. Her phone is suddenly off limits. Her mood shifts. Her schedule becomes unpredictable. You point it out, hoping for an honest conversation. Instead of addressing your concern, she flips it back on you with, "You're being paranoid." What just happened? She turned your awareness into a weakness. Now you're on the defensive, trying to prove you're not crazy, while she slips away with her story intact. And here's the harsh reality. If she's cheating with someone you know, a coworker, a so-called family friend, she desperately needs you to stop digging. The more questions you ask, the closer you get to exposing what's really happening. So she uses language, not silence, to shut you down. That phrase is her shield, not her truth. Here's what you need to remember. Your intuition is not your enemy. It's your early warning system. A man who ignores it sets himself up for betrayal he could have seen coming. So when she says you're paranoid, pause. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Step back, watch patterns, and let her behavior tell the story. Actions will always reveal more than words. A man who trusts his gut never looks paranoid. He looks prepared. Number 2. He's like a brother to me. The moment a woman feels the need to label a relationship with that much intensity, it should set off alarm bells. Let's be honest, no one calls someone a brother unless there's something they don't want you to question. That phrase isn't about comfort, it's about control. She's building a shield before you even think about raising suspicion. Ask yourself this: why does she need to defend the connection so hard? If it's truly innocent, there's no reason to over-explain. The louder the justification, the more it sounds like a cover. And when the man in question happens to be someone close to you, a friend, a colleague, or part of your circle, that's when the danger is real. She knows you'd never expect betrayal from someone in your inner world, so she hides him behind a label that disarms your instincts. Here's the psychology behind it. She wants to plant an image in your head. He's family, so he's off limits. That way, every time your gut raises a red flag, you silence yourself because she already framed the narrative. It's not reassurance, it's strategy. So what should you do? Don't confront her with anger, and don't swallow the excuse. Instead, pay attention to consistency. Does her behavior with this so-called brother match the label, or is there closeness that crosses the line? Observe how much time she spends, the tone in her voice, the energy she gives. Actions never lie. Remember, a man who respects himself doesn't need to argue about titles. He looks past the words and measures the truth in behavior, and if what you see doesn't align with what she says, you already have your answer. Number 3, you're just insecure. This one is brutal because it cuts straight into a man's pride. When a woman says this, she's not comforting you, she's insulting you. Instead of addressing your concerns, she flips the spotlight onto your supposed weakness. Suddenly, you're no longer questioning her behavior, you're defending your own masculinity. That's not a mistake, that's a tactic. Here's the truth. If she were truly innocent, she would calm your doubts, not attack your character. She would reassure you, not belittle you. But when she calls you insecure, she's setting the stage to silence you permanently. Why? Because no man wants to carry that label. The moment you accept it, you stop asking questions. You back down. And that's exactly what she wants if she's hiding a connection with someone in your circle. Think about it. Insecurity is a convenient excuse for her. It makes you the problem, not her actions. She doesn't need to explain the late-night messages or the sudden closeness with that friend. All she has to do is slap the word insecure on you, and the conversation is over. It's emotional manipulation dressed up as honesty. So what's the solution? First, don't react defensively. The more you protest, the more she'll double down. Instead, separate the insult from the reality. Ask yourself, is my concern rooted in clear patterns I've observed, or is it truly baseless? If the signs are there, trust them. You're not insecure for noticing the obvious. You're alert. A man who values himself doesn't accept shame as an answer. He demands respect, clarity, and consistency. And if she refuses to give you that, the insecurity isn't yours. It's hers, hidden behind an attack. Number 4, don't make this weird. This phrase is designed to shut you down in the moment, to make you doubt whether what you're seeing or feeling is even valid. Picture this. You walk into a room and notice her laughing a little too comfortably with a man you both know. Maybe the touch lingers too long, maybe the energy between them feels different. When you raise an eyebrow or question the vibe, she throws out, "Don't make this weird." On the surface, it sounds harmless. In reality, it's a warning shot. She's telling you not to trust your instincts. She wants to normalize behavior that's already pushing past the boundaries of respect. By saying this, she shifts the burden onto you, as if you're the one turning something innocent into something suspicious. But let's be clear. If it truly were innocent, why would she need to say it at all? Here's the psychology at work. She's trying to control the frame. If she convinces you that you're the one overreacting, she gets to keep doing exactly what she's doing, right under your nose. And if the man in question is part of your circle, the betrayal becomes doubly dangerous. You lose not just her honesty, but also the loyalty you thought you had from him. So how do you respond? Don't let the phrase silence you. Don't argue in the heat of the moment either. Simply observe. Set boundaries clearly, not emotionally. A man with standards doesn't apologize for expecting respect. You don't make things weird by noticing disrespect. She makes it weird by crossing the line. At the end of the day, if it feels off, it probably is. Trust your gut, not her deflection. Number 5. I don't know why you don't trust me. On the surface, this line sounds emotional, almost wounded. But don't let the performance fool you. This isn't a cry for understanding. It's guilt-tripping at its finest. Instead of addressing your concerns head-on, she flips the script and makes you the problem. Now, instead of focusing on her suspicious behavior, you're left defending yourself, scrambling to prove that you do trust her. That's the trap. She knows you've noticed the shifts, the late replies, the unexplained closeness with a man in your circle, the subtle changes in energy. Rather than explaining any of it, she leans on this emotional card. Why don't you trust me? It's not an answer, it's a diversion. By framing herself as the victim, she puts you in a position where pressing further makes you look cruel, paranoid, or unloving. Psychologically, this works because most men want to avoid conflict. You don't want to be the bad guy. And so, instead of holding her accountable, you back off. That's exactly what she's counting on. But here's the harsh reality. Trust is not proven by words. It's proven by consistent action. If she has to tell you to trust her instead of showing you why you should, something's already broken. So what's the move? Don't accept guilt as a substitute for clarity. Stay calm. Acknowledge the line, but shift the focus back where it belongs. Behavior. Say less. Observe more. A man who respects himself doesn't hand out trust just because someone demands it. He measures trust by patterns, by transparency, by alignment between words and actions. Trust is earned, not begged for. And if she keeps asking why you don't trust her, Maybe the real question is, why should you? Number 6. We just vibe. At first glance, this phrase sounds innocent, almost playful. But let's not sugarcoat it. This is one of the clearest indicators of emotional cheating. When she says we just vibe, she's not describing a harmless friendship. She's admitting there's a connection, a spark, a pull that goes beyond casual. And if the man she's talking about happens to be someone in your world, someone you already know, that's not just chemistry, that's danger. Here's the psychology. Emotional bonds form before physical ones. The phrase, we just vibe, is her way of downplaying intimacy that's already developing. It makes it sound light, like it doesn't mean much. But pay attention. If she feels the need to acknowledge that connection, it's already crossed into territory that threatens your relationship. Emotional cheating is often more dangerous than physical cheating because it plants roots. It builds loyalty and desire in silence, while you're left wondering why she feels distant. The problem isn't the words, it's the pattern. Who is she vibing with late at night? Who gets her inside jokes, her secrets, her energy that should belong to you? Once a woman starts investing emotionally in another man, especially one within your circle, you're no longer her priority. So what do? Don't ignore the red flag just because the word vibe sounds harmless. Step back and assess. Is she sharing more of herself with this person than with you? Is she excusing late calls, private texts, or lingering time together under the blanket of we just vibe? If so, understand that this is no small thing. A man who values himself doesn't compete with another man for his partner's emotional core. He recognizes when the bond has shifted, and he chooses dignity over denial. Number 7. He gets me in a way no one else does. This is not just a phrase, it's a confession. By the time a woman says this out loud, she's already built a deep emotional bridge to another man. And if that man is part of your circle, the betrayal cuts even deeper. This isn't casual, this isn't harmless. It's her way of admitting that someone else has taken the role you're supposed to have. Let's break it down. When she claims another man gets her, what she's really saying is that he understands her needs, her emotions, her inner world better than you do. That's dangerous because emotional connection is the foundation of intimacy. Physical cheating can be impulsive. Emotional cheating is deliberate. It means she's already invested her trust, her thoughts, her loyalty somewhere else. Here's the psychology. Women justify betrayal by framing it as connection. If she convinces herself that this other man understands her in a way you don't, she feels validated in giving him more of herself. It becomes the excuse, the story she tells herself so she doesn't feel guilty. And once that narrative is built, it's hard to compete because she's not looking for facts, she's chasing feelings. So what do you do when you hear this? Don't beg. Don't fight for a place she's already given away. The worst mistake a man can make is trying to outdo another man in winning back her attention. That only lowers your value. Instead, recognize what this really means. She's already replaced you in her mind and her heart. A man of dignity doesn't chase a woman who's emotionally left. He accepts the truth, stands tall, and walks away with his self-respect intact. Because the moment she says another man gets her, she's already told you where her loyalty lies. Number 8. It's not what it looks like. This phrase only shows up when she's been caught in a compromising situation. Maybe you walked in and found her sitting too close with a man you both know. Maybe you noticed a late-night message that popped up at the wrong time. Or maybe someone else mentioned seeing them together. Whatever the trigger, the moment those words come out, it's not what it looks like. You can almost guarantee it's exactly what it looks like. Let's be clear. Innocent people don't need this line. If there's truly nothing going on, explanations are simple, straightforward, and backed by consistency. But when she scrambles for this phrase, it's because her behavior has crossed the line. and she's desperate to rewrite reality in real time. It's damage control, not honesty. Here's the psychology. In moments of exposure, the brain defaults to survival tactics. She knows you've seen something she can't easily explain, so she leans on ambiguity. It's not what it looks like, buys her time, plants just enough doubt to keep you from acting immediately. The goal isn't to clear her name, it's to stall, hoping you'll second-guess your own eyes. So how do you respond? Don't get dragged into an argument. Don't waste your breath on back-and-forth explanations. Trust what you saw. Observe patterns, document consistency, and let her actions confirm the truth. A man who values himself doesn't need to catch every detail. He only needs to recognize when something doesn't align. Remember this, words can be twisted, but reality cannot. If it looks like betrayal, feels like betrayal, and plays out like betrayal, it usually is. Your strength lies in trusting your perception, not her cover story. Number 9. Why don't you trust my friends? At first, this sounds like a reasonable question, but pay attention. This phrase is rarely about the whole group. It's about one man in particular. By framing it as an attack on all her friends, she hides the one you're really concerned about. Instead of defending her actions, she shifts the conversation into defending her entire circle. That way, you look like the unreasonable one, and the man she's secretly protecting stays out of the spotlight. This is classic misdirection. If she's cheating with someone you know, she can't defend him individually without raising suspicion. So she blends him into the crowd, making it harder for you to isolate the problem. Now, if you question him, you're automatically questioning everyone. Suddenly, you're the bad guy attacking her social life instead of simply addressing one relationship that doesn't sit right. Here's the psychology. Guilt hides in groups. By wrapping this man in the safety of numbers, she buys him cover. And because you don't want to come off as controlling or jealous, you back down. That's exactly what she wants, to keep you quiet while the closeness continues unchecked. So how do you handle it? Don't take the bait. Don't argue about the entire friend group. Narrow your focus. Observe who she defends most fiercely, who gets the most of her time and energy, and who she insists is just like family. You'll find your answer not in the group, but in the individual she's protecting with such intensity. A man who values clarity doesn't get lost in the crowd. He knows that loyalty isn't proven by association, it's proven by consistency. If one friend stands out too much, that's not paranoia. That's your instincts telling you exactly where to look. Number 10. You never listen to me. On the surface, this sounds like a simple complaint, but in reality, it's often a setup. By framing you as emotionally unavailable, she creates the perfect justification for seeking connection somewhere else, sometimes with a man who's been in your circle all along. It's not about communication, it's about rewriting the story so she feels entitled to betray your trust. Think carefully. Everyone argues, and no relationship is perfect. But when this line becomes a theme, not an exception, it's more than frustration. It's a narrative. She's painting you as the man who doesn't care, doesn't hear her, doesn't show up. And once that story is established, she uses it to explain why she's turning to someone else. In her mind, it's not cheating. It's finding what she needs. That's not honesty, that's rationalization. Here's the psychology. People justify their actions to protect themselves from guilt. By blaming you for not listening, she shifts the responsibility. The betrayal no longer feels like her fault. It becomes inevitable. And if the man filling that gap is a friend, co-worker, or someone you already trust, the knife goes in even deeper. So how do you respond? Don't fall into the guilt trap. Don't scramble to prove her wrong by overcompensating. Instead, step back and evaluate the reality. Is this about genuine communication issues, or is it an excuse layered on top of suspicious behavior? If it's the latter, Recognize it for what it is, a justification for disloyalty. A man of value doesn't let guilt cloud his judgment. He listens, yes, but he also demands accountability. If her words don't align with her actions, you don't need to explain yourself. You need to decide if she deserves a place in your life at all. Cheating with someone you know is more than betrayal. It's an earthquake that shakes the foundation of your entire life. It's not just her disloyalty you're facing, it's the loss of trust in the people closest to you. That double blow is what makes this form of betrayal so devastating. And the cruel truth is, it rarely starts with obvious actions. It begins with words. The phrases we just covered, "You're being paranoid," "He's like a brother." We just vibe. These aren't random. They're calculated. They're verbal smokescreens designed to keep you second-guessing yourself while she gets closer to someone you never thought would cross the line. Words become her strongest weapon, because if she can twist your perception, she doesn't need to hide her behavior. She just needs you to doubt your instincts long enough for the damage to be done. But here's the shift you need to make. Stop treating your intuition like an enemy. Stop letting guilt, labels, or accusations of insecurity silence your awareness. A man who trusts himself cannot be manipulated. A man who observes patterns instead of chasing explanations is never blindsided. Understand this. Loyalty doesn't need defending, and respect doesn't need excuses. If her words don't match her actions, the gap between them is where the truth lives. And you don't have to chase it. Just pay attention. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you hear one of these phrases, don't ignore it. Don't let it slide. Listen. But also observe. Guard your self-respect like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. If you've ever faced this kind of betrayal, share your story in the comments. Other men need to hear that they're not alone. And if you want to stay ahead of manipulation, subscribe now. Like and share this video with someone you care about, because the harsh reality is, he might be the one who needs this message most. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. Women cheat differently than men. They don't just stumble into it. They prepare, they detach, they justify. And by the time you notice, it's already over. That's why so many men get blindsided. But betrayal doesn't just appear out of thin air. It happens when three conditions collide. Three specific things that, once in place, almost guarantee she'll look elsewhere. If you don't know what they are, you're vulnerable. But if you do, you'll see the danger signs long before she crosses the line. In this video, I'll walk you through those three things step by step. Can someone look you in the eyes, whisper, "I love you," and still betray you behind your back? The uncomfortable truth is yes. That's not what you want to hear, but it's the first dose of reality you need. Too many men cling to the illusion that love automatically equals loyalty. But if you've been alive long enough, you already know the two don't always travel together. And when it comes to women, this gap can be devastating. The problem starts with definitions. Men usually have a singular, almost tunnel vision idea of what love means. For most men, love is passion, desire, closeness, and physical connection. If those are alive, he feels secure. If those are gone, he feels abandoned. But women see love through a wider lens. Psychology breaks it down into 4 major categories, and when you understand these, you'll see why a woman can cheat and still claim she loves you. The first is Eros. This is the fiery, intoxicating love of passion and closeness. It's the kind of love that keeps couples up all night, that pulls them into each other's orbit like gravity. It's addictive, it's exciting, and it's what most men crave. The second is Philia. This is the bond of friendship, the calm, steady connection between equals. When couples have been together for years and the fire of passion cools, Philia is often what remains. She may still love you in this way, but it's not the kind of love that stops her from seeking passion elsewhere. The third is storge. This is the natural affection between parents and children. It's unconditional, uncalculated, and not based on merit. A woman can feel this deeply for her kids and still feel nothing but emptiness for her partner. The fourth is agape. This is the selfless, giving love, like the love of God for humanity. It's love without expectation, offered freely. Some women hold on to agape as a principle, even while betraying you in practice. Now, here's the kicker. When you ask a woman if she still loves you, she might genuinely mean it. She may be offering you philia, when what you desperately want is eros. She may see no contradiction in her actions, because her definition of love doesn't match yours. Meanwhile, you're left confused, trying to reconcile words with actions that don't line up. That's why so many men stay in relationships long after trust is broken. They hear, "I love you," and they hang on to it like a life raft. They don't realize those words can be true in her mind and false in reality at the same time. That's the blind spot. That's where men get trapped. Understand this. Love, in the way she defines it, is not a guarantee of loyalty. If you keep believing it is, you'll never see the betrayal coming until it's too late. Now that you understand why love doesn't always mean loyalty, let's cut straight into the 3 real reasons women cheat. Number 1, when she craves variety and feels starved. You've probably heard the old cliché. Men cheat for variety, women cheat for emotion. And most men nod along, thinking women are naturally more loyal, that they don't crave change the way men do. That's one of the most dangerous lies you can believe. Because here's the truth. Women also crave variety. They just mask it better. When a woman feels starved inside her relationship, whether it's physical closeness or emotional attention, she starts looking outward. And unlike men, who might pursue novelty for the thrill alone, women often justify it as a way to fill a gap. She tells herself she's not abandoning her marriage or her partner. She's simply outsourcing what she's not getting at home. Picture this. She still cooks dinner. She still tucks the kids into bed. She still smiles across the table at you. On the surface, she looks like the perfect wife. But late at night, while you're snoring in bed, she's texting another man. Not because she doesn't care about her family, but because the hunger inside her has grown unbearable. That quiet longing becomes a secret life. This is where men get blindsided. You think as long as you're providing, as long as the bills are paid, you're doing your job. But relationships don't run on autopilot. If she feels unseen, untouched, or emotionally ignored, she will find someone who makes her feel alive again. It's not about whether you're a good man. It's about whether you're meeting the needs she values most. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't excuse betrayal. It explains the psychology. A woman might stay in her marriage for years while secretly feeding her desire elsewhere. She convinces herself she's protecting her family, that this double life is the lesser evil. She gets to keep her stability while chasing her cravings in the shadows. The irony is brutal. She can justify it in her mind as a way of saving the relationship. If I can just get this need met somewhere else, I won't have to leave him. Meanwhile, you're being quietly replaced, not all at once, but piece by piece. By the time you notice, the emotional bond between you is already cracked beyond repair. Here's the lesson. When you don't step up to fulfill her emotional and intimate needs, someone else will. That's not fear-mongering. That's reality. And the men who ignore it are the ones who wake up one day realizing their loyal partner has been living a second life right under their nose. Number 2. When her love and respect for you slowly fade away. A woman almost never leaves suddenly. Long before she walks out of the house with her suitcase, She's already walked out in her heart. That's the cruel difference men rarely see coming. By the time you notice her coldness, her distance, or her silence, she's been detaching for months, sometimes years. It doesn't always start with another man. It often starts with you. Maybe you thought you were being a strong leader, but you slipped into control. Maybe you thought being busy at work was noble, but she felt invisible. Maybe you assumed love was permanent, so you stopped putting effort into the small gestures that once made her light up. Whatever the reason, the slow erosion of respect is what kills her love. On the outside, she might keep smiling. She'll say, "I'm fine." She'll laugh at family gatherings. She'll go through the motions of being your partner. But inside, there's a widening emptiness, a void where affection used to live. She no longer looks at you with admiration. She looks at you like a burden, like someone she has to endure. And here's the chilling part. Once a woman loses respect for you, regaining it is nearly impossible. That's why, for many women, cheating becomes less about pleasure and more about escape. It's not always a sudden spark with another man. It's the slow drip of disappointment, the suffocating weight of unmet needs, until she convinces herself, "I deserve to feel alive again." When her respect dies, when her affection dries up, the door to betrayal opens wide. This is why men often feel blindsided. You thought things were fine. She told you they were. But women are experts at maintaining the facade while secretly disconnecting. By the time she acts out, she's already built her exit strategy emotionally. Cheating, in this case, isn't random. It's the final step of a long process of detachment. Understand this. Once a woman has emotionally checked out, leaving her will hurt you more than it hurts her, because she's already gone. And if you're blind to the signs, you'll cling to a ghost, wondering how it all crumbled so suddenly. The reality is harsh but simple. Love doesn't die overnight. It withers when respect fades, when admiration is replaced with resentment, when closeness is replaced with silence. And once she crosses that line, betrayal isn't a question of if, it's a matter of when. Number 3. When fear and circumstances push her into someone else's arms. Not every act of betrayal comes from passion. Sometimes it's born out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of financial instability. Of raising kids without support. Of what friends or family will say. A woman doesn't always cheat because she's deeply in love with someone else. Sometimes she cheats because she feels trapped and powerless in the life she already has. This is where the psychology of safety nets comes in. Instead of walking away, she clings to the stability you provide while secretly building a backup plan with someone else. She doesn't see it as abandoning you. She sees it as cushioning her fall. That third party becomes a transition, a soft landing zone she can step into when the weight of her unhappiness becomes unbearable. It can be as subtle as venting to another man after a fight. You might dismiss it as just talking, but over time, that outlet grows into a bond. That bond becomes her lifeline. And before you know it, the arguments you brushed off at home are fueling the intimacy she's building elsewhere. Every misunderstanding, every cold night of silence, every careless word, it all pushes her closer to someone who feels safer, kinder, or simply more attentive. The tragedy is that in her mind, this makes sense. She tells herself she's protecting her family by not filing for divorce. She convinces herself she's doing the responsible thing by staying, while still reaching for a connection that keeps her sane. But what she doesn't admit is that each step she takes with him is one step further away from you. This is why some men feel completely blindsided when the breakup finally comes. From your perspective, it might look like she left suddenly. From hers, she's been preparing her escape for months, maybe even years. That other man wasn't just a fling. He was the bridge she built to walk away from you without ever feeling the free fall of being alone. Here's the brutal truth. When a woman feels unsafe, emotionally or practically, she won't always walk out the front door. Sometimes she slips out through a side exit, into the arms of another man who offers her the illusion of security. And every time you dismiss her concerns, every time you leave conflicts unresolved, you push her closer to that escape route. If you think small fights don't matter, think again. To her, those small fights might be the very moments that decide whether she leans back into you or leans into someone else. This is the part you need to hear carefully, because it might save you years of blindness. Men often ignore the red flags because facing them feels unbearable. You don't want to believe she could betray you. You'd rather accept her excuses, tell yourself you're being paranoid, or hope the tension passes. But denial is the fastest way to become the last man in the room to realize the truth. So pay attention, because these signs, while not absolute, are your early warning system. The first sign. Her phone becomes untouchable. It used to sit on the counter, face up, with no password or maybe just a casual lock. Now it's glued to her hand. She carries it into the bathroom. She sets it face down at dinner. If you reach for it, she reacts like you've violated sacred ground. The phone transforms into a private vault and the change is sudden. That's not paranoia. That's a shift in behavior. The second sign, mysterious disappearances. There are stretches of time when you simply can't reach her. Calls go unanswered. Messages sit unread. Later, when she finally reappears, her explanations don't add up. She was busy with work, but her story has holes. She was with a friend, but you never hear about that friend again. When a woman becomes unavailable in ways she never was before, that's a signal she's investing her time elsewhere. The third sign, a sudden obsession with her appearance. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, but you'll notice the difference. She starts spending extra time getting ready for routine errands. Her wardrobe shifts. Her makeup becomes bolder. The change doesn't align with any life event. No new job, no special occasion. She's reinventing herself, but not for you. The fourth sign, an unexplained shift in attitude. The warmth that once defined her is replaced with distance, irritation, or coldness. Little things you do suddenly annoy her. The way she talks to you changes, sharper, more dismissive. These aren't random mood swings. They're the result of emotional detachment. She's already transferring her affection somewhere else, and you're left with the scraps. The fifth sign, lies, even about small things. You catch her stories not lining up. She gives unnecessary details to cover her tracks. Sometimes the lies are so minor you wonder why she'd bother. But that's the point. Dishonesty becomes a habit, a reflex, because she's already living a double life. If she can't be honest about the small stuff, don't fool yourself into thinking she's telling the truth about the big things. The sixth sign, communication collapses. Remember when you used to talk daily, share jokes, or check in on each other? Now you're begging for scraps of her attention. Conversations are short, distracted, or forced. Calls go unanswered. Texts get one-word replies. That's not busyness. That's disinterest. Communication is the lifeline of a relationship, and when she cuts it, you're watching the cord being severed in real time. Individually, each of these signs might have an innocent explanation. A locked phone doesn't prove betrayal. A new wardrobe could just be self-care. But when these behaviors cluster together, when secrecy, distance, and lies start stacking up, the odds shift dramatically. You're no longer looking at coincidences. You're looking at patterns. And here's the critical part. Your gut will usually sense it before your mind accepts it. Men often silence that instinct because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be controlling or jealous. But ignoring your gut is how you end up blindsided. Trust your instincts. They're not perfect, but they're rarely wrong. The moment you see multiple signs stacking up, Stop hoping it's nothing. Start paying attention. Write it down. Observe. Protect yourself. Because the cost of denial isn't just heartbreak. It's years of wasted time, dignity, and energy invested in someone who already checked out. Men and women don't cheat the same way. That's one of the most dangerous misconceptions you can hold. When a man cheats, it's often impulsive. It can be driven by desire, opportunity, or ego. He can step outside the relationship and then step right back in, without much emotional attachment to the person he cheated with. That doesn't make it harmless, but it does make it different. Women operate differently. For most women, cheating is rarely a spontaneous accident. It's a process, a build-up. They think about it, wrestle with it, justify it. By the time she crosses the line, she's already been halfway gone for a long time. She's not just chasing a thrill, she's seeking connection, validation, or an exit. That's why when women cheat, it often cuts deeper. Because it's not just physical, it's emotional. This is what most men fail to grasp. You catch her, and you think it's just like when a guy slips up at a bar or on a business trip. You tell yourself, if she just stops, we can fix this. But what you don't see is that her betrayal is layered with months, maybe years, of emotional detachment. She didn't stumble into someone else's arms. She walked there step by step, while you were still convinced everything was fine. That's why, when men finally uncover the truth, it feels like a bomb has gone off. You thought you were losing her attention slowly. In reality, you lost her heart long before you discovered the evidence. By the time she's physically unfaithful, the emotional bridge back to you is already burned. Here's the harsh reality. Women rarely cheat without feelings, and those feelings don't just vanish once the affair is exposed. That's why so many men struggle to win her back after betrayal, while she feels almost relieved it's out in the open. For her, the act of cheating wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the conclusion of a long, silent journey away from you. So stop comparing male and female infidelity as if they're the same animal. They're not. A man can sometimes compartmentalize, detach, and move on. A woman, once she's crossed that line, has usually invested her heart elsewhere. And once her heart is gone, what's left for you is a body that stays out of convenience, but a spirit that's already miles away. If you want to protect yourself, you need to stop projecting your idea of cheating onto her. You need to see it for what it is. A different, deeper kind of betrayal. One that doesn't just steal loyalty, but steals the very bond you thought was unbreakable. Now you've seen the reality for what it is. Women don't just cheat out of nowhere. It happens in 3 powerful scenarios. When she craves variety and feels starved in the relationship, when her love and respect for you fade into silence, and when fear or circumstances push her to build a secret exit plan. Add to that the subtle warning signs, the locked phone, the sudden disappearances, the shift in appearance, the lies, the coldness, the collapse of communication, and you have a map of betrayal unfolding right in front of you. But here's the gut punch. Men are almost always the last to know. She's been preparing, planning, and detaching long before you saw the smoke. By the time you confront her, the fire has already burned through the foundation. That's why so many men feel blindsided, not because the signs weren't there, but because they refused to see them. The truth is brutal but freeing. You cannot control whether a woman chooses to betray you. You cannot force loyalty out of someone who has already left in her heart. What you can control is your awareness, your standards, and your response. You can choose to stop ignoring your gut. You can choose to pay attention to patterns instead of excuses. And most importantly, you can choose not to beg for the scraps of love from someone who has already handed them to another man. If you've been nodding through this video, it's because you recognize the patterns. Maybe you've lived them. Maybe you're living them right now. Don't let denial destroy years of your life. Stand tall, face the truth, and protect your dignity. Because no matter how painful it feels to confront, it will never hurt as much as staying blind. If this video hit you hard, that means it was meant for you. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another man who needs to wake up. And if you want more raw truths about women, relationships, and the psychology of power in love, subscribe to this channel. Like, comment, share. Because every time a man learns this truth, that's one more man who refuses to be led by illusions. When a woman feels guilty, she won't tell you the truth. She'll show it in changes you weren't expecting. Her words, her tone, her actions, they all shift when guilt takes over. And while you're busy enjoying the extra affection or the sudden gifts, you miss the truth screaming at you through her behavior. That's why today, I'm going to walk you through 10 signs that reveal when she's feeling guilty after being unfaithful. Watch closely, because the 7th one is the easiest to notice, and every guilty woman does it. Before we dive into these signs, take a second to subscribe, hit like, and let me know what city you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this message is reaching, and I'm truly glad to see our community growing stronger every day. Now, let's break down the very first sign, a sudden flood of affection that feels good, but it could also very well be guilt trying to rewrite the story. Number 1, she suddenly becomes overly affectionate. At first, it feels flattering. She hugs you more, kisses you for no reason, and drops "I love you" texts in the middle of the day. A part of you wants to believe it's just love overflowing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone feels guilty, they often try to tip the scales back in their favor. That extra sweetness may not come from real desire. It comes from guilt trying to patch up the wound. Psychologically, guilt creates imbalance. She knows she crossed a line, and to calm her conscience, she may shower you with affection to convince both you and herself that everything is fine. It's not always about closeness. Many times it's about damage control. The affection isn't spontaneous, it's calculated. It's her way of saying, "Look at how much I love you," so you won't ask what she's been doing when you weren't around. Here's what you need to understand. Real love is consistent. It doesn't appear overnight like a storm of sudden devotion. If her affection skyrockets out of nowhere, without a deeper reason like reconciliation after a fight, it's worth asking yourself what's fueling it. Is it love or is it guilt? As a man, your job isn't to reject affection, but to observe patterns. If kindness appears suddenly and intensely, but doesn't line up with her usual behavior, don't get lost in the sweetness. Step back, watch carefully, and remember. Over-affection after a betrayal isn't always intimacy. It's often her conscience begging for forgiveness without ever saying the words. Number 2, she starts buying you gifts for no reason. It feels good, doesn't it? She surprises you with a new shirt, that gadget you mentioned once, or tickets to something you like. Out of nowhere, she's acting like the most thoughtful partner alive. A part of you thinks, wow, she must really care. But here's what most men never realize. Sudden generosity is one of guilt's favorite disguises. This is what psychologists call guilt spending. When someone does something they know is wrong, the weight of that guilt can become unbearable. To balance it out, they try to repay without admitting the truth. A new gift is easier than a confession. A surprise dinner is easier than facing what she's done. These gifts aren't about you. They're about her trying to silence her conscience. The danger is simple. Men often confuse gifts with love. You get distracted by the shiny object in front of you and miss the bigger question. Why now? Why is she suddenly so generous? Real affection isn't measured in things. It's measured in consistency, effort, and presence. Here's the mindset you need. Accept the gift, but don't let it blind you. Keep your focus on the behavior behind the gesture. If her generosity appears suddenly after weeks or months of emotional distance, it's not romance, it's reparations. And reparations mean there's a wound she's trying to cover up. Remember this. A gift can never erase betrayal. If you see sudden generosity with no clear reason, it may not be her love speaking. It may be her guilt trying to buy silence. Number 3. She suddenly takes an unusual interest in your day. It starts with small questions. How was work? What did you eat? What time did you get home? On the surface, it looks like she finally cares about the details of your life. You might even feel appreciated for once. But here's where you need to be sharp. When curiosity explodes overnight, it's often not about closeness. It's about covering tracks. Guilt makes people want to shift attention. If she's asking about every little thing in your routine, it's not because she's suddenly fascinated with your office meetings or lunch choices. It's because the more she gets you talking, the less you'll notice what she's hiding. It creates a smokescreen, fake intimacy that distracts you from her own movements. Men often mistake this for genuine care. They feel good when their partner acts more interested than usual. But true interest grows gradually and shows up in follow-up actions, remembering what you said, supporting your goals, or engaging in meaningful conversations. Sudden interrogation-style interest is different. It's shallow, repetitive, and oddly timed. Here's the principle. When someone floods you with questions that don't match their past behavior, don't just answer. Observe. Ask yourself, is she truly connecting with me, or is she redirecting my attention? Real connection makes you feel seen. Fake connection makes you feel distracted. Never confuse surveillance with love. If her sudden interest feels more like an act than a bond, you're not looking at closeness. You're looking at guilt trying to hide in plain sight. Number 4. She gets defensive over simple questions. You ask something harmless like, "Where were you?" or "Who were you with?" And suddenly, it's like you've accused her of a crime. Her tone sharpens, her body stiffens, and instead of answering, she lashes out. You're left wondering why a casual question turned into an argument. Here's the psychology. Guilt breeds paranoia. When someone is hiding something, even the simplest questions feel like an attack. It's not your words that spark the explosion. It's the truth she doesn't want to reveal. Her defensiveness is less about you and more about the silent weight she's carrying inside. The trap most men fall into is reacting emotionally. You start defending yourself, insisting you weren't accusing her. Or worse, you back down and avoid questions altogether. That's exactly what guilt-driven defensiveness feeds on. It trains you to stop asking. Instead, you need to recognize what's really happening. A secure partner can answer calmly. A guilty partner reacts like she's on trial. Watch her nonverbal cues, sudden anger, nervous gestures, or a shift in eye contact. These are signs of internal panic, not honest communication. Here's the rule. Don't argue. Don't chase explanations. Stay calm and observe. The more defensive she gets over questions that shouldn't be threatening, the clearer it becomes that something isn't right. Remember, real trust doesn't break under small questions. If every inquiry feels like a battlefield, you're not dealing with healthy communication. You're dealing with guilt dressed up as outrage. Number 5. She suddenly changes her routine. Out of nowhere, she's cooking dinner more often, suggesting movie nights, or sitting with you to watch the shows she never cared about before. At first, it feels like a dream. She's finally putting in effort, finally acting like the partner you always wanted. But before you get too comfortable, ask yourself, why the sudden shift? Behavioral shifts like these don't usually come from nowhere. When guilt is in play, change is often strategic. She wants to rebuild your sense of security before you even realize it's been broken. Cooking your favorite meal or acting invested in your hobbies becomes a distraction, a way to steer your attention away from the unspoken. It's not growth, it's damage control. Men often misread these moments. You think she's maturing or finally seeing your value. But genuine growth happens gradually, not overnight. If her habits flip like a switch, it's less likely about love and more about fear of being exposed. She's not just adding kindness, she's trying to overwrite suspicion. Your job is not to reject the gesture, but to interpret it correctly. Ask, does this change feel natural, consistent, and sustained, or is it a sudden performance? Real partnership doesn't need to act like theater. Remember this, routines tell the truth. When they shift suddenly, especially without any conversation or reason, don't be lulled into comfort. It's often not about bonding with you. It's about keeping you from noticing what she's already done. Number 6, she suddenly gives you more freedom than ever before. The woman who once asked where you were going or who you were with now waves you off with a smile. Go out with your friends. I trust you. At first it feels refreshing. The tension is gone, the jealousy is gone, and for once, she's not keeping tabs on you. But here's the hidden layer. When freedom shows up overnight, it often carries the fingerprints of guilt. Psychologically, this shift can be a form of projection. She knows she's stepped outside the boundaries, and in her mind, giving you more freedom makes things fair. If she crossed the line, then you having the same opportunity somehow clears her conscience. It's not genuine trust. It's a trade-off in her head. I did it, so maybe he should too. Many men misinterpret this as growth, thinking their partner has finally matured and let go of insecurity. But real trust builds slowly through consistency and honesty. Sudden freedom, especially when it replaces years of possessiveness, isn't a gift. It's a red flag. Here's how to approach it. Enjoy the freedom, but don't ignore the context. Ask yourself why the change happened now. Did something shift in the relationship dynamic? Or is it simply her guilt rewriting the rules? Remember, real trust doesn't appear overnight. If she suddenly loosens her grip without explanation, it's not about respect. It's about evening the score. Freedom should feel like a choice rooted in love, not a desperate attempt to balance betrayal. Number 7, she flips her behavior with her phone. At first, she guards it like a safe. The phone never leaves her hand. It's face down on the table, locked with new passwords, and any notification sends her rushing to check. Then suddenly, the script flips. The phone is left lying around unlocked, casually placed where you can see it. She even encourages you to use it if you need to. On the surface, it looks like transparency. But here's the truth. It's often just another layer of guilt management. This shift is strategic. Right after betrayal, paranoia makes her hide everything. But when guilt sets in, she knows secrecy raises suspicion. So she does the opposite. She leaves her phone open, creating the illusion of trust, all while knowing she's already erased what matters. It's not real openness. It's theater designed to rebuild your confidence. Most men fall for it. They see the phone lying around and think, if she were hiding something, she wouldn't do that. But understand this, by the time she leaves her phone in plain sight, the evidence is usually gone. What you're seeing isn't honesty, it's performance. Here's your move. Don't be distracted by appearances. Observe the timing. Did she switch from hyper-protective to overly relaxed without explanation? If yes, don't assume you've regained trust. Real openness doesn't flip like a light switch. Remember this. When someone goes out of their way to look trustworthy, it's often because they're desperate for you not to look deeper. Number 8. She suddenly starts overpraising you. Out of nowhere, you're the best man she's ever met. You're the strongest, the kindest, the only one who truly understands her. Every conversation turns into a speech about how amazing you are. It feels good, almost intoxicating. But let's cut through the noise. When compliments come flooding in without reason, they're often less about love and more about guilt. Psychologically, this is overcompensation. Deep down, she knows she's done something that contradicts her words. To silence that inner conflict, she drowns you in praise. The more she says you're perfect, the easier it is for her to pretend she hasn't betrayed that perfection. Praise becomes her shield against her own conscience. Here's where men get trapped. We love recognition. When someone tells us we're great, we drop our guard. That's exactly why guilt uses flattery as a weapon. If she can keep you basking in her words, you'll be too distracted to notice the cracks in her behavior. Your responsibility is not to reject praise, but to measure it. Ask yourself, is this praise consistent with her past behavior, or is it suddenly overwhelming? Real respect doesn't need exaggeration. It shows up in actions, not just speeches. Remember this. When admiration feels inflated, it's usually not a reflection of your greatness. It's a reflection of her guilt. Don't confuse flattery with loyalty. If her words sound like a performance, that's exactly what they are. Number 9. She shows sudden bursts of sadness or anxiety. You notice her staring off into space, wiping away random tears, or snapping under pressure that doesn't make sense. She blames it on work stress, hormones, or just feeling off. But the timing is strange. The emotions seem to come out of nowhere, and they don't line up with the circumstances. What you're witnessing may not be random mood swings, it may be guilt taking its toll. Psychologically, guilt is heavy. It doesn't just sit quietly in the mind, it leaks into emotions. When someone carries a secret that clashes with their identity, it creates internal conflict. That conflict often shows up as unexplained sadness, irritability, or stress. She's not crying because of you. She's crying because her conscience won't let her rest. Here's where men go wrong. They rush in to fix it. You hug her, reassure her, or bend over backwards to lift her mood. But when guilt is the root cause, your comfort doesn't solve anything. It only gives her a temporary escape while the truth keeps eating at her. The smarter move is to step back and observe. Do these emotional breakdowns happen more often after suspicious changes in behavior? Do they appear with no clear trigger? If yes, don't ignore the pattern. Remember, genuine stress has clear sources: work deadlines, family issues, health concerns. But guilt-driven emotions erupt unpredictably. If her sadness feels misplaced and disproportionate, it's not random. It's the weight of betrayal pressing down, and it's a sign you can't afford to overlook. Number 10. She starts bringing up cheating indirectly. You're watching a movie together, and suddenly she comments, "I can't believe someone would cheat on their partner like that." Or she brings up a friend's story of betrayal, shaking her head in disgust. On the surface, it sounds like she's condemning disloyalty. But pay attention. When someone repeatedly talks about cheating out of nowhere, it's often more than commentary. It's confession in disguise. Psychologically, guilt looks for release. Carrying a secret creates unbearable tension, and indirect speech becomes a safety valve. By criticizing someone else's betrayal, she distances herself from her own actions while secretly acknowledging them. It's a way of confessing without ever being held accountable. Many men dismiss these moments, thinking, "At least she's against cheating." But the irony is, the louder she condemns it in others, the more likely she's trying to silence the voice inside her. Her comments aren't casual. They're a mirror of her own conscience. Here's the key. Don't ignore these disguised confessions. When a woman repeatedly brings up betrayal in conversations that don't call for it, that's not random. That's her guilt leaking through. Your response doesn't have to be confrontation. It should be observation. Connect the dots between her words and her actions. If talk of cheating coincides with other suspicious shifts in behavior, you're not just listening to commentary. You're listening to guilt, speaking in code. Remember this: indirect confessions are still confessions. Ignore them, and you risk missing the clearest sign her conscience will ever give you. When you step back and look at all these signs together, a pattern begins to form. One random gift doesn't mean betrayal. A single burst of affection doesn't prove guilt. But when these behaviors stack up, when she suddenly becomes overly affectionate, showers you with gifts, asks endless questions, gets defensive, shifts her routine, grants you freedom, flips her phone habits, overpraises you, breaks down emotionally, and brings up cheating out of nowhere, then it's no longer coincidence. It's a story her behavior is telling you, even if her words never will. Here's the harsh truth most men don't want to hear. Guilt changes behavior, and once it sets in, it bleeds into everything. You don't need a confession to know something is off. You just need to pay attention, connect the dots, and trust your instincts. But this isn't about turning paranoid or living in constant suspicion. It's about reclaiming your awareness. Too many men ignore their gut because they want to avoid conflict. They accept gifts, enjoy the sudden affection, and swallow the overpraise because it feels good. Meanwhile, they miss the bigger picture. Don't let comfort blind you to reality. If you see multiple signs showing up at once, take it seriously. Don't jump to accusations, but don't dismiss the evidence either. Observation is your greatest tool. When you see clearly, you're no longer vulnerable to manipulation. You're no longer at the mercy of guilt-driven performances. And here's the empowering part. Whether or not betrayal has already happened, these moments are your opportunity to set standards. They're a wake-up call to demand honesty, consistency, and respect. To remind yourself that you deserve a relationship rooted in truth, not distraction, not performance, and not guilt-driven acts. So, if you want to stay sharp, protect your peace, and never be blindsided by emotional games, hit that subscribe button. Like this video, and share it with the men who need this wake-up call. Comment the sign you've recognized in your own experience. Sharing it could help another man see what he's been blind to. Every week, I'll bring you more insights to help you cut through illusions, reclaim your power, and lead your relationships on your terms. Maybe you've been in this moment. You ask a simple question, and suddenly her tone changes, her eyes shift, or she gets defensive out of nowhere. You can feel the distance, but you can't put your finger on why. That's not paranoia. It's your instincts telling you something's off. The danger is when you let those instincts get buried under charm, excuses, and guilt trips. Because women who want to hide the truth are masters at turning the spotlight back on you. But here's the good news. They can't outrun the right questions. In this video, I'll share 7 questions that corner dishonesty, force real reactions, and reveal what's really happening behind the curtain. Once you know these, you'll never be left doubting in silence again. Before I give you the first question, here's your reminder. Dishonesty doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides in the pauses, the defensiveness, the over-explaining. That's why you can't afford to miss what's coming next. So subscribe, like this video, and leave a quick comment if you've ever felt something was wrong but couldn't prove it. Because the very first question I'm about to reveal is the kind that turns whispers into undeniable proof. Number 1, where were you last night? It looks like the simplest question in the world, but simplicity is the trap. A woman who is honest will always have one version of reality. Her details line up because she isn't working to remember a script. She's living the truth. But when someone is hiding something, that same question becomes a razor. The first time you ask, she'll have an answer prepared. The second or third time you ask, at a different moment, in a different mood, the cracks start to show. Lies are heavy, and it takes effort to carry them. Here's how it works. You don't interrogate like a police officer. You drop the question casually, almost like small talk. One night you ask, "Where were you last night?" She says she went to dinner with a female friend and then they watched a movie at her place. Fine. Nothing suspicious. But 2 nights later, you bring it up in another context. "Oh, your friend called earlier. How was dinner with her on Monday?" If the story is true, she'll recall it with ease. The restaurant, the food, the atmosphere. If it's false, the story shifts. Suddenly, dinner becomes just a quick coffee, or she claims she doesn't remember which day it was. Maybe she even snaps back. "Why are you asking again? Don't you trust me?" That defensive reaction isn't protection, it's projection. The mistake most men make is asking once and taking the first answer at face value. But liars rely on your short memory and your need for peace. They hope you won't revisit the story. By repeating the question across time and context, you force consistency. And consistency is where truth lives. Take one case. A woman claimed she went out with a female friend and a co-worker. Later, when her partner casually asked about the co-worker, she struggled to remember what she'd said before. That gap wasn't random. It was the strain of carrying a lie. You don't need anger or confrontation. You need patience. You listen. You collect. You compare. If the story changes, if the details evaporate, the truth is already in front of you. So remember this. It's not about the question. It's about the replay. Ask again, in different ways, at different times. A man who listens twice will see what the first answer tried to hide. Number 2. Why didn't you answer my call? Every man knows the sting of dialing a woman and watching the screen light up with no response. Sometimes it's innocent. She's in a meeting, her phone's in her bag, she didn't hear it. But when the pattern repeats, when it happens at the same times, or when the excuses start to pile up, this simple question becomes a test of loyalty. Here's the psychology. A woman who's telling the truth doesn't need a novel to explain herself. She'll say, "My phone was on silent," or "I was driving." Short, clear, believable. But a woman who's hiding something? Her answers stretch. Suddenly you get a 5-minute story about how she left her phone in the locker at the gym, how the gym was unusually crowded, how she lost track of time, how she was exhausted, and on and on. That flood of unnecessary detail is not clarity. It's cover. Another red flag is defensiveness. Instead of answering your question, she throws it back at you. "Why are you always calling when I'm busy?" Or, "Can't I have one evening to myself?" Notice what happened. You asked a question about her behavior, and somehow you're now on trial. That's manipulation. A woman with nothing to hide doesn't need to make you feel guilty just for asking. And here's the killer. Contradictions with social media. She claims she was too busy to answer, yet during that exact hour, her Instagram story shows her posting selfies or commenting on someone else's post. If she had the time to scroll, she had the time to send a 2-second text saying, "I'll call you later." Silence in your direction, but activity online? That's not distraction. That's choice. Consider this example. A woman claimed she missed her boyfriend's calls every Thursday evening because she was at her book club, with phones on silent. Reasonable, until her social media activity told a different story. During the very hours she claimed she was unreachable, she was liking posts and viewing stories. The book club existed, yes, but she wasn't there the entire evening. She was slipping out early to meet someone else, keeping her phone in her hand for social media, but ignoring his calls. Understand this. Missing one call is nothing. Life happens. But consistent unavailability, paired with shaky explanations, is a signal. You're not asking this question to be controlling. You're asking because consistency is the currency of trust. So the next time you hear, "I couldn't answer, I was too busy," don't focus only on the words. Look at the length of the explanation, the tone of the defense, and whether her digital life tells a different story. Truth is brief, Lies take time. Number 3. Who are you with? This question slices through the fog of vague explanations. Most people, when asked who they were with, naturally share names, faces, little details. I grabbed a drink with a college friend. You met him at my birthday last year. That's normal. It's human. But when a woman is hiding something, the details suddenly vanish. All you get is just some friends or a few people from work. Here's the psychology. Lies thrive in vagueness. Specifics can be checked, verified, or challenged. A liar avoids that risk by keeping things blurry. But truth likes to be remembered. When a person is honest, they often provide more than you even asked for, because they aren't afraid of follow-up questions. Watch the body language when you ask. A woman with nothing to hide will look you in the eye, answer comfortably, maybe even smile. A woman covering something up often avoids eye contact, shifts in her seat, or suddenly acts irritated that you asked. The body doesn't lie as easily as the mouth. Here's a strategy. Circle back later. If she says, I was out with a female friend and a coworker, then 2 days later you casually drop, how's that coworker doing? You mentioned them the other night. If the coworker was real, her answer will come effortlessly. If the coworker was fiction, she'll scramble, stall, or even forget she mentioned them. That's the beauty of this question. You don't need to catch her in the moment. Time does the work for you. Another layer of protection. Mutual friends. If she claims she was with someone you both know, you can verify without raising alarms. For example, you mention casually to that mutual friend, heard you two had fun last week. If they look puzzled or deny it, the story unravels instantly. One case stands out. A woman always claimed she went out with her co-workers every Friday night. But when her partner met those co-workers at a company event, none of them ever mentioned such outings. Her vague, just co-workers excuse was nothing but cover for another life she was hiding. Understand this. The question isn't about controlling her social circle. It's about clarity. If she resists giving you names, gets defensive when you press gently, or offers only fog instead of faces, she's signaling something. Relationships are built on accountability. If she can't even name who she spent her time with, what else is she hiding? So never underestimate this question. Who are you with? Is not just small talk. It's a mirror. Honest company is easy to name. Lies, however, can't handle the light of specifics. Number 4. Why do you seem distant lately? This is not a question about schedules. It's about the heartbeat of the relationship. When a woman begins to pull away, less conversation, less affection, less energy, you feel it before you can explain it. And here's the truth. Emotional distance rarely shows up without a cause. If she's being honest, she'll usually have a specific explanation. Stress at work, a family issue, health concerns, real-life problems that drain her energy. These answers come with context, details, and often an apology. I know I've been distracted. My mom's in the hospital, and it's weighing on me. The honesty is tangible. She connects the dots for you, and she's open to your support. But when the distance comes from somewhere else, another man, a hidden investment of attention, the response shifts. Instead of context, you get deflection. She'll deny the distance. I'm not different. You're just being clingy. Or she'll turn the spotlight on you. Why do you analyze everything I do? That's not an answer. That's an attack. It's a way of shutting down your intuition and making you question yourself. Another sign, overcompensation. The moment you ask, she suddenly floods you with affection, texts, or smiles. But it doesn't last. A few days later, the coldness returns. That roller coaster isn't real intimacy. It's a performance designed to cover tracks. Here's where you must be sharp. Don't settle for vague phrases like, I've just had a lot on my mind. Press gently. What exactly has been bothering you? If the story has no timeline, no concrete weight, then it's likely not the real reason. Genuine stress has fingerprints, deadlines, names, events. A cover story does not. In one case, a man noticed his wife growing colder by the week. Conversations shrank, physical affection dwindled, and shared activities no longer sparked joy. When he asked why, she said, "Work stress." But when he offered to help, take over chores, plan a weekend getaway, she declined every solution. That's when it clicked. It wasn't stress stealing her energy. It was her attention invested elsewhere. Men often ignore emotional distance, hoping it will fade. That's a mistake. Distance is not neutral. It's directional. If she's not bringing her energy to you, it's going somewhere else. So pay attention, ask the question, and don't be fooled by deflection or temporary sweetness. Emotional withdrawal is one of the earliest signs of betrayal. And if you feel it, don't gaslight yourself. Your intuition is usually right. Number 5, can I see your phone for a minute? In today's world, a phone is more than a device. It's a diary, a social circle, and a record of habits. That's why this question is so revealing. It's not about what you might find on the screen. It's about her reaction in the moment you ask. A woman with nothing to hide treats the request casually. She might hand it over without hesitation or explain quickly if she's in the middle of something. Sure, let me finish this text first. Her response is calm, proportional, and free of drama. She doesn't act like you just accused her of a crime. But when secrets are buried in that device, the body speaks before the mouth does. Watch closely. Does she instinctively pull the phone closer to her, like a shield? Does her posture stiffen, her face tighten, her voice rise? These unconscious reactions happen before she has time to control them. A guilty phone owner doesn't relax. She panics. Common verbal red flags include, "Why do you want to see my phone?" or "Don't you trust me?" Notice how these aren't answers. They're counterattacks. The goal is to make you feel ashamed for asking instead of focusing on why she's so unwilling. Another variation is conditional compliance. "You can look later," or "after I clean some things up." Translation? She needs time to erase the evidence. The most extreme response is outright outrage. "Absolutely not. I can't believe you'd even ask." That level of fire over such a simple request tells you the truth. She's hiding something she cannot risk you seeing. Someone with normal privacy concerns will set boundaries calmly, without theatrics. But when fury explodes, it's because the phone is loaded with secrets. Here's a smart tactic. Don't frame the request as a search. Instead, make it practical. "Can I use your phone to call my brother? My battery's dead." Or, "Can I check the weather real quick?" If she hands it over easily, that's transparency. If she creates obstacles, "Why not wait till later?" Or, "Just charge your phone instead." Those excuses are the real signal. Consider one example. A man used this exact method. He asked to borrow his girlfriend's phone to check an address. Her entire body tensed. She clutched the phone like it was gold and snapped, "Use your own." That reaction told him more than any text message ever could. Remember this. You're not hunting through her apps like a detective. You're observing her comfort level with access. Trust doesn't panic. Secrets do. Number 6. Why are you dressing up more than usual? Clothing tells a story long before words do. When a woman suddenly changes the way she presents herself, new outfits, more makeup, extra time in front of the mirror, it raises an important question. Who is she trying to impress? A woman with honest intentions will usually explain these changes with clarity. Maybe she got a promotion and wants to look more professional. Maybe she lost weight and is feeling proud of her progress. Maybe she simply wants to reinvent her style for her own confidence. These reasons make sense, and they come with enthusiasm. She'll tell you about the new blouse she bought for work, or the haircut she's been wanting for months. Real motivation carries details. But when the explanation is vague, "I just felt like it," or when the response turns defensive, "Why can't I care about how I look?" That's a different story. Defensiveness is often the shield for a hidden agenda. And the real red flag isn't just the change in appearance, it's the timing. If she invests more effort in how she looks for outings without you, yet makes minimal effort when she's with you, that's not self-improvement. That's redirected energy. Here's what to watch for: the mismatch between occasion and effort. Suddenly spending an hour getting ready to run errands but throwing on sweats for dinner with you. Putting on perfume to visit family but showing up barefaced when you go on a date together. The pattern isn't about the clothes, it's about where her attention is flowing. In one instance, a man noticed this shift with his girlfriend. For months she was casual when they went out together. But before grocery runs, she began dressing sharply, doing her hair, even applying lipstick. When he asked why, she brushed it off. But the truth surfaced later. Those errands included detours to meet someone else. The effort wasn't for him. It was for the new audience in her life. You don't need to confront with accusations. You simply need to observe. Honest changes in appearance are transparent, shared openly, even celebrated. Secretive changes are defensive, mismatched, and selective. So when you notice the shift, ask the question. Listen not just to the words, but to the tone. Genuine motivation shines through with clarity. Hidden attraction hides behind irritation. Never forget, appearance is currency. When she spends more of it outside your relationship than within it, she's showing you exactly where her priorities now lie. Number 7. Why do you keep saying, "I don't trust you"? This question flips the script. When a woman feels cornered, she often reaches for one of the oldest tricks in the book: projection. Instead of answering your concerns, she accuses you of being the problem. "You don't trust me. You're controlling. You're always suspicious." Suddenly the spotlight is off her behavior and shining on your supposed flaws. Here's the psychology. People who are guilty often use deflection because it buys them time. If you're busy defending your trustworthiness as a partner, you're not pressing them on the real issue. It's a smokescreen. But when you throw the question back, "Why do you keep saying I don't trust you?" you force her to explain the accusation, and that's where the truth slips. An honest woman might pause, reflect, and say, "You're right. I've been defensive lately. I need to think about why." That's transparency. She's willing to examine herself and meet you halfway. But a woman hiding something? She doubles down. "Because you're always on my case. Because you make me feel like a criminal." Notice the vagueness. No specific examples, no concrete behavior from you, just broad claims designed to make you feel guilty. If she can't pinpoint when or how you supposedly distrusted her, it's because the issue isn't you. It's her conscience. Here's a tactic. Calmly ask, "What exactly have I done that makes you think I don't trust you?" If she struggles to answer, if she dodges, if she spirals into more accusations, you've exposed the projection. Real grievances come with dates, situations, memories. Manufactured ones fall apart under scrutiny. In one case, a man's girlfriend constantly accused him of being suspicious, even though he rarely questioned her. When he finally asked why she kept bringing it up, she couldn't provide a single example. It turned out she was projecting her own guilt. She was unfaithful, and her constant "you don't trust me" was her way of masking that reality. Understand this. A woman who brings up trust more than you do is usually fighting her own battle with it. She's not reacting to your lack of faith. She's revealing her own lack of honesty. So when you hear that phrase again and again, don't get defensive. Don't fall for the guilt trip. Ask the question. Watch her reaction. If she can't explain it clearly, the issue isn't your trust, it's her truth. Now you've seen it. 7 questions that act like scalpels, cutting through excuses, vagueness, and emotional games. These aren't tricks to play detective in your relationship. They are mirrors. Each one forces a moment of truth, not through confrontation, but through consistency, observation, and calm strength. Understand this, you're not asking to police her. You're asking to protect yourself. A man who ignores patterns, who dismisses his gut, who silences his own instincts, becomes easy prey for manipulation. But a man who listens carefully, asks clearly, and observes patiently, he can't be deceived for long. Think back through these 7 questions. They aren't about proving her guilty. They're about giving her the chance to show where she really stands. Honest women will meet you with clarity, detail, and openness. Dishonest women will meet you with fog, defensiveness, and guilt trips. The contrast is so sharp it's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. And here's the real lesson. The answers matter less than the reactions. Watch how she responds. Does she relax or does she panic? Does she give details or does she attack? Does she welcome clarity or run from it? That difference tells you everything. Don't let your emotions blind you. Don't let affection rewrite reality. And don't wait until betrayal shatters you to start protecting your heart. You can't control another person's loyalty, but you can control your awareness, your boundaries, and your decision to stay true to yourself. If you've been watching this and thinking, this is exactly what I needed, then it's time to take the next step. Hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with another man who might be walking blind into the same storm. Drop a comment below about which question hit you the hardest. Your story could wake someone else up. And don't forget to like this video so more men can see it before it's too late. Because here's the truth. Trust isn't about closing your eyes and hoping for the best. Trust is about seeing clearly, asking the right questions, and refusing to be played. Don't wait until you're broken to learn how to defend yourself. Protect your heart today. Because if you don't,